Welcome. Welcome to Internet Insanity.
Welcome to Internet Insanity, where we deal with the frustrations of the internet and being an artist and putting yourself out there. I am one of the co-hosts, Ezra.
And I'm David. Take the clickbait out of art.
Okay, let's do that. How do we do that?
Well, first we just talk about why art's important to us, I think.
All right, let's try that. Let's see if that works.
Yeah. I think what today we're going to cover is like how old we were when the internet came out and what our relationship to the internet has been as we've gotten older. I think a lot of people have completely different experiences based on their age. Like Gen Xers, when the internet came out, they were astounded by how much easier things got for them. And I think for me as a millennial, when I was like 15 when the internet came out, I was astounded about how much harder things became because I realized everyone had as much access to all this information as I did and probably wasn't as lazy as I was. So, that's something I've talked about with friends, and I've noticed that it really gives people pause, where it's like, oh wow, yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Like what's really crazy is being like 14 versus 16 versus 18 is actually a world of difference about how an event can affect your life, and the internet, a social device, no less. So, um, let's just jump in.
Yeah.
How old were you when the internet came out?
Oh, God. Well, I was born in 95. I'm 25 now.
Mm-hmm.
Just turned 25. Happy birthday to me. Um, let's see. I don't know exactly when the internet came out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember life without some internet.
Oh, okay.
When I was a kid, I remember my dad had this laptop that like only worked sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was like a toddler,
Whoa.
like young child, he had this. It was like a brick, and he would like open it up, and it would make a really loud noise when it would turn on, and it was
Mm-hmm.
and it would get really hot, and you could hear the fan
Mm-hmm.
blowing, and it was super slow, and I just remember being like so like obsessed with it because I was just like oh my god, it's a whole what are you doing, like it's
Mm-hmm.
and then it just sat in on a shelf and collected dust for many years before then all of a sudden it was gone and I don't know where it went, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with like CD-ROMs, and we would play like Barbie games on my dad's computer. That was pretty common, but it wasn't like very common. Like we didn't have video games growing up. I didn't really have TV that much. Like when my parents divorced, my dad had TV and my mom didn't have TV, so it was like sometimes. But for the most part, like what really got me going on the internet was was Club Penguin. Do you know Club Penguin?
No.
You never been on it?
I've heard of it. It's just a game, right?
It's an online game where you have an avatar. You're a penguin, and you're interacting with all these other penguins that are real kids, hopefully, around the world, who, have penguin avatars as well, and you can walk around, and you can play games and get money and change your outfit if you have a membership, which I did.
Nice.
And I was obsessed with it. I wanted to be on it 24/7, and I used my dad's laptop in order to go on it. But the thing that I did on it was I was a boy penguin, and as a trans guy, like trying to like live my fantasy of like actually existing in the world, being perceived as male. I could do that on this online game.
How old were you again?
I was like 8.
Whoa.
I was really young.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know why I wanted to be a boy penguin. I just thought their clothes were cooler, and I was like I didn't really go into it in detail.
Yeah.
I didn't psychoanalyze myself.
Right.
But now looking back, I'm like, oh, duh. Like, of course.
That's pretty interesting. You got to be yourself through an avatar. Or maybe it was a safer space. You were always yourself, but I'm just saying.
I could express myself in a more authentic way through this penguin. Which is like, that's the saddest fucking thing.
God bless the penguins.
God bless the penguins. The trans penguins of America.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I get. Yeah, that is pretty sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. But you know, I remember being like, that was the first time that I could be sexual. Where like I would invite somebody over to my igloo, and I was like, we would have like virtual online penguin sex.
What?
Did I not tell you about this?
No.
Yeah. So like, hopefully there were other kids my age, but I'm guessing that there were probably predators on there too. But I was so hypersexual as a kid, like so intrigued by sex. I couldn't, like, I developed that aspect of my hormones or whatever way sooner than all my friends, at least. And so I would go online and on Club Penguin, and I would just be like, it was like a code word. We'd be like, do you want to make penguin eggs?
Whoa.
Like have penguin sex to make a penguin egg. So dumb. And we would type in like, ooh, ah, like, and it was so erotic to me. And so that was like my first real like connection with strangers on the internet. And then that led into like chat roulette, Omegle, that kind of stuff. And I was definitely like using that also as a way to explore the world as a guy and like trick people into, not trick people, but, you know, just like pretend that I was perceived as male 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I just remembered something really crazy that during the early years of American Online,
oh my God,
and child pornography, I guess what had happened is that I think it was a comedian that actually who sexually molested as a child, like brought to their attention that there's all these predators on it, and there was like I think it was even a congressional hearing, and American Online was like, well, if they do it more than 2 times, then we'll ban them, like a 3-strike law, and it was like, yeah, and it took like society to be like, no, like that is, what's wrong with you? It's just like illegal and the worst of the worst things you could do as a human being. So that's how fucked up the internet is at times. Anyways,
3-strike law.
A 3-strike law, yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
But anyways, on to better things. So you were using chat roulette and Omegle. Is that also like a video cam type thing?
Yeah, it's like their tagline is "Talk to strangers!"
Oh, okay.
Exclamation point.
And so you're like, still, were you 8? No, or you were older then?
That was when I was like 10.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely was exposed to this stuff early because I had older sisters.
Oh, okay.
I was the youngest of, well, originally there were 4 of us at this point in my life. One of my sisters did pass away a few years later. Oh. So, and she was like the oldest and the worst of the worst as far as the bullying and harassment goes. So she was like the cool girl though that, like, you know, had a MySpace. She was the one that taught me what MySpace was, and you know, it was just like I was introduced to really adult themes as a really young kid with no real like parental involvement because it was so new. Social media was just starting to become accessible to kids at that point because you could fake, like Facebook, for example, was not really around yet. MySpace, you could say that you were 20 even if you were like 10.
Yeah. And
like they had no way of checking. So like,
right.
It was becoming more normal at this point in like 2003, 4 to like explore the internet as a kid.
Yeah.
And actually be able to connect with people somehow. And so I definitely like I don't know. I definitely think that I was exposed to really, really adult stuff
Yeah.
way too early.
Yeah, same here. I think a lot of people have that.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, I don't even think it has to. Well, for me, I remember I was trying to download a video game. So that's what I did for the first few years of the internet. I was just trying to download video games.
Yeah.
Video games. And I remember seeing a vagina, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And I remember feeling like, really, like, this is wrong, like, because I don't know what it is, but this looks human, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, what the fuck is it? I was in an Orthodox Jewish household too. I was a really sheltered kid, and like, and I know they were using a dildo too, so I was like, wait a minute, okay, I think is this a vagina? I'm like, what the fuck is this? And like, but I remember also being like, hell yeah, like I get to see something that normally I wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah.
And like, looking back, like, there's just the I had to create my own messages of what this meant, and coming from like a 12-year-old mind, it's just like, cool, I'm getting away with something,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, oh, this is a human,
Right.
like, on the other side of
Yeah.
this.
It's a really fast track to learning how to objectify bodies, for sure, because you're not experiencing really their humanity as much as you would in person. If you saw somebody like exposing their vagina to you at that age in real life, which is basically what's happening,
Right,
but you don't make that connection because there's a screen in front of you, so it's almost like you're watching television or whatever.
yeah,
But this is a real human, right? And like, I mean, I'm not saying that on TV it's not real, but like,
no, but it's a screen.
it's a screen, exactly. And you're just like exposed to this person's sexuality because you said that they were using a dildo or whatever, and you're like,
and it was a GIF, by the way.
oh god,
Yeah,
that's
I wasn't
great.
even like live. It was a GIF.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's still
close
just
GIF.
like if that happened IRL,
Right.
you're just sitting there. I can't even, like, it would be perceived as so different, right?
Yeah.
Like, it would be viewed by the world as so different, but like what's happening to the kid is probably very, like, I mean it would be very different in real life versus the GIF. I think, but like not by much.
No, there's the Center for Healthy Sex. They have a YouTube page, and they have stuff about this, like how pornography affects like male minds and things like that, and it's like pretty dark.
What's a male mind?
Well, and there would also be better to explain this territory that I like. I know what I'm saying is what they're saying, but I don't know the like respectful gender context. But it has something to do with having more of a visual appetite to sexual attraction than the other gender side.
I would like to argue with that all of that is learned.
Yeah.
Behavior.
Yeah.
And socialization.
Yeah.
So like, because this idea that like the male mind thinks a certain way or acts a certain way or reacts or responds to things differently than the female mind, just like, I think that all of that perpetuates it further and makes it, continue the separation of the genders.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't believe it.
Right.
Having experienced being perceived as both genders, I know that there's a huge difference with the way the world sees me, and that could really affect how my behavior is as a child or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't buy that shit.
Right. I mean, specifically, it's the visual centers and the dopamine receptors.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't necessarily need to have a gender thrown on top of it.
Right.
But I do...
Because I bet that there's a lot of diversity within that too. Like, within the genders. Like, if you think about, like, okay, one specific, like, trigger that happens in the brain is going to be so different between if you're like experimenting that on like a controlled set of like 10 cis guys or whatever,
Right.
there's going to be diversity within those 10 cis guys.
Right. Yeah.
So who's to say that there's like, if you mix it up, that there's
Right.
going to be not going to be the same type of diversity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that
And
make
I
any
know
sense?
I want to find out, I feel like a lot of it's really more about like the effects of different hormones on the brain and how
Mhm.
that shapes different parts of the brain anatomy.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It could literally be just like testosterone affects the visual centers. And so then that doesn't necessarily mean like you're a guy if you have testosterone. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's
So-
what I'm.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. But I remember when it was the thing was like you get more dopamine from a visual image of the sexual act than actually having a sexual act.
Whoa.
Yeah. That made me stop watching porn instantly when I learned that because I went, holy fucking shit, this shit is not good. And
Oh
I
my
just
God.
stopped. But, you know, that's why I think the Center for Healthy Sex is a great organization. I would love to have some of them on because they're well aware of all this stuff and they're helping sex addicts. So, and
That's
they're
cool.
also like I know they embrace the queer community fully. Like they know wherever they are mindful of all the different experiences and diverse people. So
That's
certainly
good.
more than I am, of course. I mean, a lot of people are.
That's cool.
But yeah, so I think that would be something really interesting
Yeah.
to say. And for me, like when it came to relationship stuff, like there was a lot of tons of useful information from that
Cool.
page. So.
See, there are resources out there that are so helpful with like with regards to the internet that like I would just never have access to if we didn't have them online. So, you know, I definitely like think that there's really useful information out there.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid and you want to see some titties,
Are you over 18? Of course I am.
Of course I am. All I have to do is click a button.
Yeah.
Bitch, I'm 18.
Yeah.
I'm definitely old enough to click this button.
Yeah. I think I remember when I clicked on it, I was like, fuck, I hope they don't ask me for ID. Because I would also try to get porn like in real life, like when I was a kid. Like I was a really crazy kid. And so I would go to like, one time I wrote a note that my dad, I faked that my dad gave me a shopping list, and then it was like soda, like a Slurpee, some candy, and then also a Playboy. And I remember I was like, oh, what's this? I need a Playboy. You know what I mean? They laughed and they were like, this kid's ridiculous.
You're so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. But so then I was just like, oh shit, are they going to card me when I click enter? And then I clicked enter and like nothing happened. And then it was like, whoa,
that was easy.
Yeah.
We should probably take a break, yeah?
Yeah, let's go watch some porn. All right. And we're back.
We are back. That porn was excellent. I don't know what you're talking about. I feel really happy right now. My dopamine receptors are running wild.
Yeah. That's awesome. I have to talk to a therapist now.
I love porn. Anyway. So, you know, we talked about my origin story as far as the internet goes. I want to know about what it was like in the dark ages.
Dark ages, yeah. I think I was like 10 when the internet came out. And I remember really wanting an AOL account really bad. But I didn't know what to do with it. But I just thought email was amazing. And I didn't have, and like my family, I came from a divorced household and my mom was a very religious person. And so my stepdad used it for, I guess, like business purposes. But they were just very much like, you've been on the computer too long. It's already been like, I've seen you on there. It's been an hour. Go outside. Like this thing's gonna warp your brain. And I was just like, oh, but it looks so cool. It's just so amazing. And even like the little colors were interesting. Like I loved like the different colored fonts, and I would like type different fonts, and I would just be obsessed with like all the different fonts.
I love that.
And then then I found out you could download video games from download.com. And so then I would just download all these video games, but they were usually like trials. So I remember I'd be really upset at when it would be like day 29 and I knew I was a 30-day trial. Like my heart would sink. And my mom was also like pretty poor, so there was no way I could convince her to buy the game. And then so that was pretty much it. Just like looking at games, and then all of a sudden I could find titties, and then I would print out pictures and like keep them under my pillow or something.
Naked pictures of.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so bold.
Yeah, and well, it's because I was also afraid that they would catch me on the computer because it was like in the living room, Like I had to figure out like it would normally be like I think like 8:30 or 9, like when they're like in their rooms or something, get ready for bed. It's like, all right, I got like 10 minutes to like get this photo. And plus, like, I think I don't really remember, like, when I learned to clear the history. I might have learned it right away, for all I know.
Oh my god. I have a little story about that. When I was in 5th grade, me and my best friend at the time, we were on the phone, and I was like, oh my god, okay, my parents are at home. I'm going to go on sex.com, and you should go on sex.com with me. And she was like, okay, let's do it. And we were both very innocent, like never have watched porn in our lives. We both type in sex.com, and we're just like, oh my god, whoa, like mind blowing, right?
Right.
And then I was like terrified, so we X'd out, and that was it. And I was like, okay, like never again. That's so scary. And then the next day, my dad is like helping me get like an email or something, and I type into the search bar or whatever, and you know how it like goes down and it sees your
things.
Yeah. And the next thing was like sex.com. And I remember just my heart like dropping into my stomach, like I was so terrified.
Yeah.
But like he wasn't looking for sex.com, so he didn't see it.
Right.
But I was still just like horrified that like that popped up, and I was like, how do I delete it?
Yeah.
And so I remember spending like a good, I don't know, hour, 2 hours trying to figure out how to delete my search history. That was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, terrifying stuff.
Yeah. There's a secrecy to all of this online stuff that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And like after like that, I remember being like 12 and then getting an AOL Instant Messenger account. And my username, I had two. Okay. It was Neo42666, which was like Neo from the Matrix or whatever.
Nice.
But my favorite one is Rage Against Your Mom. I love Rage Against the Machine, and so I was Rage Against Your Mom, and me and my friends would gossip about each other, and pretty much just make the same jokes. We made fun of each other the same day. We basically just like continued bullying each other.
Nice.
And we thought that was very fun. And I would start shit with people in chat rooms because I think I had this fascination with like insults, and I just assumed everybody had that same fascination. It's like even now when I see like sometimes people put really dumb comments, and if I look and I kind of assume that it must be like a little boy or something, part of me is like, oh, you just think this is funny. But like you just said the most racist, like violent thing. It like totally didn't, like you are not seeing those two things. You're just like, oh my god, look how upset they're getting, ha 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 ha. Whereas like other people are just like, having panic attacks and reliving trauma.
Yeah.
It's just so messed up. And so I was like that kid. I would like wait. I would see a chat room and like again sheltered, so I didn't know people were trying to like get nudes and cyber sex and things like that and hook up. But so I would just see. I'd log in, and I'd look at the chat and it would be like 15M LA, 22M GA, and it would so age, sex, and location.
Yeah.
ASL. ASL, and then. As soon as someone was like 22F, NY, all of a sudden all these people would be like, yo, what's up? Like, Blossom 83, how are you doing? And like, I would kind of wait for the person who seemed to have the best rapport. And then I would be like, bro 82's a bitch. bro, and he's you know, and I would say he's gay because that's what you did. That was an insult, and like, um, you know, we were way more comfortable with our open homophobia at the time, and so
Now it's a little more covert.
yeah, now it's more covert, and uh, but you know, that's what I would do, and they would be like, "Shut up, Rich Mom." And I'd be like, "You shut up. You suck." And like, and then I'd wait till they would private message me, and then that's when I get really excited. It's like, all right, let's see how far we can push this.
Oh my
So then it would be
God.
like, "What's your problem?" Like, "You're just a bitch," and they'd be like, "What? You're a fucking little dick bitch." And I'd be like, "Oh, little dick bitch. I never heard that one. That's kind of funny. I'll make sure to like call my friend a little dick bitch." Like, that's what I thought. I just thought everyone knew this, and I thought the kid. And then every once in a while, the person would start saying like really crazy racial slurs, like, and or like death threats, and then I'd be like, "Oh, I don't understand what's happening." Like, and I would just leave.
How old were you at this
I was
point?
like 12. I was like a
Okay.
sheltered 12-year-old kid, and then finally, what happened was, is I got into another argument, and this guy said, "Your mom butt fucks billy goats while your dad licks their balls," and I had no comeback. I had no
For
comeback.
that, really?
Yeah, I just thought that was great. It had like incest, it had bestiality, it had like, um, you know, sexual, well, you know, quote, sexual taboos, like as far as like the mom penetrating, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, that's the best insult I've ever heard. And I felt satisfied. I swear, this is so embarrassing to admit, like,
Somebody else said it?
freely.
It wasn't
Yeah,
you?
someone said that to
Okay.
me,
All right.
and I had no comeback.
You were
and
just like, you're right.
I was speechless. I was like, "That's amazing," and I just stopped. I was like, "Cool, that's," because I don't know. To me, it was funny. That it also had to be funny, and to me, that was hilarious. Just your mom butt fucks billy goats while your dad licks their
I
balls.
love that you remember
I
it.
It's I remember it.
It's David's mantra. He says
It's
it.
my mantra. Yeah, when I do Zen Buddhism,
That's what you.
that's the
focus
first
on.
thing I tell people on Tinder. I tell them the story.
No, you just open with the line, "Your mom butt fucks."
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
just
was,
see if they're like cool with it.
if they're cool with it, then they pass the test.
Yeah.
Honestly, like when I had successful online dating, it's been because I've been very, very openly, as weird as I am in real life,
Huh.
on like upon our first conversation.
Huh.
And then if they pass the test, because they also can match my weirdness,
Yeah.
then it's been excellent.
Damn, that's really fucking smart.
Yeah, I also fart on the first date.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's pretty.
it's bold.
Well, it's bold. That's the word.
It's
Yeah.
bold. Except my partner now is like so weird about farts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's also gonna edit this podcast, but like he is weird about farts. He grew up in a house where like they didn't fart in front of each other, and I grew up in a household where like we would have fart competitions, and like my mom would win. So like, it was very open household. Like, people could walk around naked, and it wasn't a big deal.
Oh,
It was like that.
Whoa.
We were like hippies.
Okay.
Yeah, very open. But anyway. Butt fucking billy goats.
Well, yeah. Then I just stopped making fun of people, and then I was just like, well, I don't know why. I was satisfied. I went like I climbed the top of the mountain or something. And I just stopped. I just stopped insulting people, and I didn't really care. And like, I think I just went back to just playing video games and being a depressed kid.
I just had this beautiful image of you like receiving that insult and reading it, and then your pupils just dilate, and you see the Big Bang, and like rabbits decomposing in fast motion, and like just like unicorns flying through the air, and you're just like, holy shit, like I just saw God, like that. I mean, I've changed. I had a psychic shift.
You know what? That's so weird. I don't think it was that, but
Fine.
It was definitely. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it was a spiritual experience.
I bet.
Because there was a part of my ego that totally died in that moment.
Ego death.
Ego death.
Ego death happened at age 12.
Yeah, I allowed someone
in a chat room.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my god, fucking ego death.
Did you have instant messenger? And
I did, yeah. As I aged, I think I was like probably I would say 12 or 13 when I got AOL. AIM, right? My username was Elvis Fan. That was spelled LVISFAN.
Nice.
I thought that was genius.
Yeah.
I really did like Elvis. I dressed up as Elvis like 2 years in a row for Halloween.
Oh.
I was a weird kid. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I was having penguin sex at a really young age, so that can really do something to a kid.
Right. It naturally leads to Elvis impersonation.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was Elvis Fan. I thought I was hilarious. And then I remember, like, you know, there was a specific time the kids would, like, log in online and, you know, from my class, and we would just like talk to each other. And, like, I just remember, like, there's a lot of drama. Like, you know, I was being perceived as female. I was a pretty girl, so I got, like, you know, I got involved with boys at a really early age. So a lot of my, like, early flirting happened on AIM. A lot of my early, like, gossip happened on AIM. You know, fighting with friends happened. Like, just talking shit was a big one for us. Like, I remember just being like, oh my god, like, Ellie's crazy. And then I would talk to her and just be like, oh my god, like, Sarah's crazy. And, like, we would just, it was just like, it was, I mean, it felt real at the time. Like, it did feel like, you know, I was venting, I was letting out frustration, I was, you know, connecting with people, you know, rallying against people. But everything feels really dramatic when you're that age, you know, like, and I was a really isolated kid. So in my house, like, everybody had their own space. It was a kind of big house, and I was really isolated in my room. Like, I was just alone. And even if, like, there were people around, I grew up speaking English in a household that mostly spoke Spanish, and I wasn't fluent in Spanish. So, like, I did feel very othered in my home. So logging on and having this whole world with, you know, with my classmates and, you know, Club Penguin, because I played that well into my teens. It was just like an escape, you know, like, I could feel like I wasn't so silent, because in my house I was silent, you know. But, you know, drama, a lot of drama, you know, and then and then wanting to be like a YouTube star. I remember when, like, YouTube vloggers started happening, and I was like, oh my god, like, I could do that. And, like,
well, I want to hear more about the YouTube thing, but I just remembered, like, when I watched Mad Men, the parents would go watch the TV to the kids, and so they would ignore the kids, and that made a lot of sense about my dad, because he's like, and my mom, because they're boomers, and I was like, whoa, like, the boomer generation was like the first group of people that it was like, I don't want to be involved with you that much right now. Go, like, this family bonding and family interaction that's, like, been really old, you know, like, even in our old mammal days, we, you know, bonded. That got kind of severed or broken apart with, like, the television. And then, so it's just, to me, I've kind of noticed that's, like, a really weird thing that we have, like, these isolated households with this new technology. So it's just, because I related to the isolation.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like, and it was funny, because me and my brother both had our own computers right next to each other, and we still kind of isolated. And anyways, but
yeah, I think also, like, there was this weird thing where, like, my dad specifically could use the fact that I used the computer so much as a way to justify not being super close. So, like, but ultimately, like, he let me, you know, like, it's, I mean, but because I gravitated so much to the internet and to the computer and whatever, and wanting to be on it all the time, like, it was a mutual, it was like a symbiotic sort of relationship where like my dad didn't really know how to connect with me, and he provided this world for me on the internet, right? Because he gave me access to a computer, and then I used that because I needed connection somehow. And if he ever felt bad about not connecting with me, he'd be like, well, you're just always on the computer.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, I have a computer because you let me have a computer. Like,
right. Yeah.
but it was, I think there's a lot of room for, misunderstanding and miscommunication with that. And if you're a kid, you just don't think about things so much.
Right.
Like, of course I would rather be on this thing that I feel like I'm getting feedback from and engagement from, and I can like, I feel like I'm connecting.
Yeah.
Even if I'm actually learning a lot of really, really harmful ideas.
Yeah. I mean, the advertisements are made to get you when you're young, so that you have brand loyalty later. I mean, if you look as an adult at a kid's commercial, it's just like, well, this is so insane. It's just like, wow, just like all this like kind of like crazy, just like firework nuttiness that seems so like silly and infantile. But yeah.
I still think about the commercial for baby bottle pop candy.
Oh my god.
Baby bottle pop. Like, why do I still remember that?
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
it was a crazy commercial though. Like, they looked like they were high.
Yeah.
They were getting high off of, and a lot of commercials for like kids candy and like cereal and stuff. If you really look at it, they're just like getting fucking jacked on this shit. Like they're getting like high.
Yeah.
They look like they're on crack.
And they're always like, fuck you adults. I'm gonna fucking eat this ice cream all I want, bitch, while I fly on my spaceship.
It's like Jesus Christ. That's it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially with like knowledge of mental illness and addiction. Like watching them now, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, no wonder I'm so fucked up. Like, that's the kind of shit I was looking at all the time.
Yeah. I have this, I feel though I had this little period of grace as a child because I was able to watch Nicktoons on Sundays at my grandparents' house, and it was Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life, and All Real Monsters. But I know the thing is, up until then, like in the 80s, cartoons were made by toy companies. It was like, we want you to sell these toys, make a G.I. Joe cartoon. But Nickelodeon actually had this moment where they let animators make their own shows. So, like, if you watch Rocko's Modern Life, it's very artistic, very adult, very intelligent. And so I feel lucky that I was, like, exposed to that at a brief age. I think it probably also is why I have such a respect for art in a way, because even though I was exposed to those crazy commercials, there was like brief moments where I wouldn't get the adult joke, but it was still wholesome. Things like that. It was cool to be exposed to that type of stuff. But I didn't get into YouTube at all. I still haven't gotten into it. But you wanted to be a YouTube star?
Yeah, like I think most kids who grew up in my generation,
right,
were either fantasized about being YouTube stars or were really, really obsessed with watching specific YouTubers.
Yeah.
Because now there's like millions, right? Or
right.
I don't know, thousands. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's a lot of YouTube stars now. But back when YouTube first was getting big, there were only like a handful of people to watch who had really good production and sound quality and good cameras or whatever. Which matters, and who are putting out consistent content, consistent art.
Yeah.
And that was like Shane Dawson, Live Lava Live. I don't even know, like Jenna Marbles, I guess. She was doing stuff. There were handfuls of people, and we were like, I was really, really like committed to them. Like I really idolized them, and I wanted to like be like them. I wanted to make stuff like them. And I remember trying a couple times, like, and oh my God, they're so cringy. I uploaded a couple of the videos, And I was like, hey, like, got a new video up on my YouTube with like one
Mhm.
subscriber who was
Oh,
like my
yeah.
best friend or whatever. And I just like acted as if I had this whole following because I saw other YouTubers doing that.
Mhm.
And I was just like pretending.
Did you feel like the YouTuber was talking specifically to you? I'm just
Yeah.
curious about that.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
I felt this connection to them, like as if we were friends,
Yeah.
you know?
Because that's the thing that I think Gen Z gets a lot of flack for, is that like they're just lost in the internet and their social media and all this stuff, and they're like not in touch with reality. But like what I've noticed is like they grew up with it. They're definitely using their technology better than all of us.
Oh, for sure.
And so they know all this stuff better, and in a sense they're way more grounded with this stuff, and they're not given a lot of credit. That's what I noticed. Like if they have a certain slang, like, oh, that's fire, millennials and um, Gen Xers will just go like, oh, that's cute, like your slang is so dumb. But I think the internet's like changing the slang so much because it's like rapidly evolving that like we don't know how to keep up with it, because we would have like one cool word a generation.
Yeah.
And now, you know what I mean? And to me, it's like they deserve a lot of credit for how they're using it.
Yeah.
You know, but I have seen people who want to become YouTube stars and they're walking around talking to their phone as if someone's actually there. And there's a weird, it looks like they don't see that they're talking to their phone. They're
Yeah.
talking to someone. I don't know who that is.
They have like a lack of spatial awareness and self-awareness when it comes to like how they're being perceived by other people around them, but I also envy that a lot. Like if
Yeah,
somebody's shamelessly
totally.
like talking to their, even if they're video chatting in public,
Right.
I'm still like, oh my god, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because I know it's so normal now, but I don't know. Like it still makes me feel insecure when I'm like talking to my screen
Yeah.
and there are other people around watching me.
Right.
Because I'm like, I know what I'm doing, but do you know what I'm doing? Do I look
Yeah.
crazy? Like I get so insecure. But no, I've definitely seen like someone walk down the street, hold their phone in front of their face, and go, "Hey guys, what's up? It's me, your boy."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my god, like you look dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just,
but it's so cool that they can do that.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, it's a weird, I don't know. I think confidence in your social self has just changed a lot. Like yesterday I was thinking like boomers use the computer like they use their TV, where they're just ordering things. Like, oh, look at this meme. I'm gonna double click and order this meme to share. Like,
cute.
you know, like a catalog.
Yeah.
And they're like trying to take a selfie. They're just like, it's not working. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, you're just aiming the phone wrong. Like, and then Gen Xers, I think, are actually, you know what? They're a lot like boomers. I think they're like boomers with like worse style or something, better style, depending. But I think when they use the internet, they feel like they're at a press conference. They're like, "Hello, I'm blah blah blah, and I'm here to talk about clothing wear," and like, you know what I mean? It's very like
grammatically correct
and professional. And if they say the F word, then they're radical, so radical.
Oh my god!
You know, and
I mean, I will say that these generalizations are speaking specifically, probably from a cishet white guy's perspective.
Oh, totally.
David.
Yeah.
But you know, I still think that like, I'm able to see what you're talking about, regardless. You know?
Well, it's like
because I see those guys all the time.
Yeah.
I see them everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
and honestly, it's part of this genesis of how I came up with the podcast, because I think I was getting a lot of different influences, and for some reason keeping you in the back of my mind as well.
I live in everyone's minds.
Yeah,
somewhere in the
you don't
corner.
need a YouTube page. You got the psychic space going. But and then I feel like millennials, we're like really apologetic. We're just like, all right, guys, I know. I'm putting on a show. I know it's just a show, but it'd be really cool if you could make it. And then Gen Zers are just like charming. And like,
they're so charming.
Yeah. Or like really nuts when it comes to how awkward they can be. Like, I don't know. It scares me, but I'm not judging them. But when I see this like silly, wild, like, like they're freaking out, and I know they're trying to be funny, but there's another part of me that's like, I don't know what, I don't know how much how authentic that is. Because if it's really authentic, that doesn't look like you're in an okay space.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah, like you're really
are
acting
you
out. Because I
genuinely
totally
okay?
did that when I was like 12. Like I would act out really crazy, you know.
Yeah.
I would get death threats from people because I was acting out online in chat rooms. So I get it, but then I can't tell if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think like if you put if you film a kid,
yeah,
if a kid films themselves and they're actually being as unfiltered as kids are
right,
in real life, you're gonna see some crazy shit.
right,
I used to like, put sweatpants all the way up to my neck and like run around looking like a head with two legs.
right.
And no one filmed it.
But if you're isolated and you're looking for a huge following and validation, which a lot of the kids are, that to me is where I'm like, okay, what? I don't know. Like, that doesn't sound like it's a space of well being. From
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, like even when you're a kid and you're not being exposed to the internet or like not filming yourself for that purpose, um, you're still seeking validation from people around you in real life.
Right.
At least I was.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, like I definitely acted out as a spectacle, right?
Right.
And tried to get attention from people in real life. Like in school, I remember like doing things specifically because I knew that I would get attention for it. Like, whatever it was, like stupid shit, daring people to take their pants off in the middle of class and like whatever, like that actually did happen. Like, and so I mean, kids are fucked up, and now they're just being filmed. Just like cops are fucked up, and now they're just being filmed. Right. They've been fucked up.
Yeah.
But are we getting fucked up in different ways now? Probably.
Yeah.
Just like there's an evolution to every generation that happens, and so as kids grow up with the internet being so accessible, and there's so much more information and it's so much easier to like fuck your shit up now,
right,
and see crazy shit at a really young age, that'll do something to them.
Yeah, and I think I just find it disheartening the way I see Gen Xers talk about Gen Zers, and then the millennials are kind of like, I have to pick a side, you know? I mean, they're going to suck up to these Gen X authorities as if they know so much because they're less awkward. They're more comfortable being like themselves than I am. Or I'm going to like stick up for the Gen Zers and that like they're special and like, how dare anybody do anything wrong according to these kids. When in reality, to me, it's like the ways of generations mentoring each other has been fractured pretty deeply since the television.
Yeah, you just said so much right there.
Yeah.
That's so real.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just and this is again, this is why I hope the podcast will get a lot of support, because then we can have people talk about this stuff. Because me just saying that, good point, maybe, like, sure, that's helpful, but it's not helpful if, like, you and I are not Gen Xers, so I would want a Gen Xer to talk about it, and I'd want a Gen Zer to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to have like people of all generations. I love all generations.
Yeah. Yeah. I really want a boomer on, but I just don't see it.
That was a joke. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think we should take a quick break.
Okay. All right. We are back from that lovely break.
Yeah.
So we were talking about generations and all the misunderstanding that happens between the generations, and I think that that's something, that's talked about a lot as far as like the debate between generations is talked about. Like there's a lot of airtime for like all of the frustrations that we have with each other, but I don't think that there's a lot of communication about why.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of resentment towards the generation that comes after your own. I mean, I don't want to speak for people, but at least like what I've noticed is that like boomers will, will say, Gen X is so sensitive and like babies. Like I think that every every generation seems to call the next generation more sensitive, more fragile, more baby like
Mm-hmm.
than the next, and I don't know. I think it's like people don't want to take responsibility for the fact that like we are creating a system.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're mad at Gen Z, like you did that.
Right.
Like why are you mad, bro?
Right. Yeah, and um, I also think that a lack of community is also contributes to it. Um, I think this is what's interesting that you and I have talked about it, where you've talked about, the trans community, how supportive it is, and that like you can stay at someone's house in any state.
Most
And
likely.
yeah, and I think I was like, oh, that sounds more like a family than a community. But I think in America, I just and living in a giant city like LA, I don't see a lot of people feeling like comfortable with reaching out to their neighbor for help or like knowing that they can rely on their neighbors. It's very like isolated and estranged. And so I think that also kind of contributes to everyone wanting to be understood by each other, but not like allowing the other person to have room for misunderstanding. Like, so Gen Xer, I think, will complain like millennials are too soft and they're very like subservient to authority, but then they won't. There's not a space for the millennial to express like we grew up with this technology that was overwhelming. We just wanted someone to help guide our way, but because it's so new, no one could. And then when we complained to the Gen Xers, they kind of scoffed at us, like, what are you talking about? Like, you have more access to information that anyone in the world has, And then it just kind of turns into this like one person has to be right and the other person has to be wrong.
Right.
And instead, what really is happening is both are feeling misunderstood and both are feeling in the right. And
Because
we
they
just make memes making fun of each other.
right, and because we are all right in a sense, like because we're all speaking from our own experiences, right? And then the
Mhm.
second we start to try to psychoanalyze the other generation, that's when we're in the wrong. Because the truth is, I could never understand what it's like to be somebody who, a younger Gen Zer.
Mhm.
Like I'm on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z, so like I really do relate to both generations pretty well.
Mhm.
There are some things about millennials that I don't relate to because it's like I'm enough Gen Z to cringe at millennials,
Oh, okay.
and I'm enough millennial to cringe at Gen Z. So I'm in a weird little space where I'm like, oh my god, I see both sides of it and how cringy all of it is,
Yeah.
and so I kind of separate myself from all of it in a way
Mhm.
because I don't know, I have a unique perspective as a cusper, and I think people born in 1995 to 1997
Mhm.
feel that way.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, it's fascinating because yeah, I do see a lot of like people making a lot of assumptions about each other,
Yeah.
and you know just criticizing the way
Mhm.
people use the internet from different generations, and the way people interact from different generations. And it's like, yeah, from your perspective, I could see why you would say that.
Mhm.
But like, you don't know what it's like to grow up in the 2000s,
Right.
as a toddler in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So how could you have such a strong opinion about that?
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm. Yeah. It's weird that. Um, I mean, there's a lot of bias that comes with having an opinion. Um, I have the one weird theory, just to spice things up. I have this theory that each generation, like boomers were the last generation where it was totally acceptable to beat the shit out of a kid, like in public. Just the kid's not off, you totally pop them in the face and just, no big deal. He's just a dumbass kid. And so then the boomer kids grew up with this sense of authority as being like a very overbearing, violent authority figure. And then so then they raise their Gen Xers with that fear, like you have to watch out for these adults. But the Gen Xers grew up where it was less child abuse, was public child abuse and all that stuff was less acceptable. So then they kind of was like, I think they're kind of paranoid. I don't think it's as bad as they think it is. So they kind of got a little bit more like confident in themselves. And then they raised millennials to be afraid of baby boomers. But then millennials saw that even that was like ridiculous. And actually, they don't see any adults around. There's all this connection on the internet, and everyone's talking to each other. I don't know which way to go, but you're telling me that like it's really important what I'm doing, and so what's going to be important? Well, fucking climate change and like racism, like those issues cause so much problems that are completely unnecessary and just make tons and tons of violent and you know neglect on society, and that's where we're gonna take a fucking stand. So then you have Gen Zers, which is even weirder, which I don't understand at all, but I assume it's even more removed to where like they're being taught intersectional feminism at like a young age,
Right.
and
Because there's more space in their minds for like contemplative thought
mm-hmm.
than like say an older generation Gen Xer who was really just programmed to not say shit that would get the shit beat out of them.
Yeah.
Like I mean, if Gen Zers, if Gen Xers were speaking the way Gen Zers speak now towards authority, I mean, they're critical. They're a little arrogant sometimes. They think that they know the most, and a lot of times they are really really well informed. So it's hard to argue with them sometimes. That would make a boomer go absolutely fucking crazy. Yeah. And they do on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the only place where boomers can feel like really free to let it all out, because in real life they can't really talk back to a Gen Zer without sounding stupid.
Right.
And on the internet they do sound stupid, but at least they have more time to type it out with their index fingers.
Yeah, and when you're arguing on the internet, most of the time you're not looking to hear. You're not trying to come to an agreement.
No.
It's just the nature of the medium. Someone types quicker than you, and then you didn't get to finish your point, and then they talk about a completely different point. And I think the frustration of how poor the communication can be on the internet adds to the already like tense and difficult conversations that people are trying to have.
Yeah.
So
unless your intentions are to bridge the gaps between the generations and the miscommunication that happens between the generations. Like I have a friend who is 57, and she loves Gen Z, she loves millennials, and she loves like Gen Xers. She's just like, we're like, everybody is so like such a teacher. Everyone's so powerful. They have so much to say. I honor you. I want to hear you. I want to take the time to understand you because my perspective is so different. Like coming from that space is the only way that we're going to have actual communication.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're just being like, I don't understand you, like you just like the things you say just don't make sense to me. Like I don't get it.
Right.
Like you're not honoring them. You're just exacerbating the separation.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah. And so we are all at where we are.
The power of now.
The power of now, yeah.
Eckhart David Jean. Well, this was a good episode. I love talking about childhood and how creepy I was as a kid.
Yeah, and we dipped a little bit into teenagehood, but I think we'll talk more about that on the next episode because we both took a break for different reasons, and then kind of I feel like now we came back, we're kind of the similar adults that we are now. Like we haven't, I don't know, I haven't changed much since I came back.
I certainly have changed a lot,
but
but yeah, let's talk more about adulthood and the internet on the next episode. And if you have anything you want to talk about with us about your childhood and the internet, we'd love to hear your stories. And so you can email us at internetinsanitypod@gmail.com if you have anything you want to say to us, if you want to be on the show, if you are an artist looking to get your stuff out there and or just make connections with us and talk about how fucking crazy the internet is. I know you want to talk about it, so
and any
we'd love to have
support is
you on.
greatly appreciated, and we hope to lend some in return.
Yeah, and we have an Instagram also,
Mm-hmm.
Internet Insanity Pod. You can follow us, and we'll post updates about our next episodes and what guests we're gonna have on and all that fun social media stuff.
Fun. Yes.
Super fun. We're having
Yay.
fun, kids. We're
I
having.
love talking about arguments between generations.
I actually do.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
Bye.